Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've really enjoyed this. You've been a great panel. In San Diego, which I represent, we know that our community is vibrant and booming from immigration. And in my district, the fastest growing racial group actually is Asian American Pacific Islanders. AAPI businesses have created over 50,000 jobs in San Diego County. I always think it's kind of amusing to sit here where we seem to agree on so much. We agree that the immigration system is broken. We agree that we are against illegal immigration. We agree that we are for legal immigration, but no one has acknowledged what maybe we should say out loud is that Congress has the power to decide what legal immigration is. And if we don't like what it is today, why don't we make legal what's good for America? And I would just ask Mr. Jawitz a question. If and this maybe say one more time that people have acknowledged that the Senate did take this up in 2013. That was my first year in Congress. And I thought, oh boy, we're gonna solve this problem. And then I found out that the speaker, Mr. Boehner at that time, could keep something off the floor from even being voted on. 68 votes in the Senate, very bipartisan, would have provided $40 billion for border security, which was a big, tough nut to digest for a lot of Democrats. But would have solved a lot of the numbers problems, would have reunited families and done a lot of the other things we all say we want to do. So that's before us. Again, we could do that. Mr. Jawitz, we hear often this notion from opponents of immigration that immigrants will take American jobs. Would you explain why that's not the case?
Sure, and I think that Dr. Kerr can get into that as well. But economists have looked at this repeatedly, and what they basically do is they talk about this in terms of whether immigrants are competing or if they're complementing the American workforce. And by and large, in most aspects, immigrants are complementing the American workforce, not even considering the additional entrepreneurship of just straight creating jobs out of whole cloth.
So they're filling new jobs, not taking existing jobs. Is that essentially what it is?
They're often filling new jobs, and frankly, because of the complementary aspect of it, by filling new introductory level jobs, they actually free up the opportunity for additional managerial jobs and other things for American workers. We see some of the biggest gains actually among African-American workers who end up getting higher level, more managerial jobs often when the entry-level jobs are being taken by immigrants, especially new immigrants who may not have the same native language fluency as American workers.
Right, and with respect to the 2013 bill, you mentioned that the CBO estimated a reduction in the federal deficit of nearly $1 trillion over 20 years.
That's right.
How is that possible?
I mean, it's two things basically. One part, and this sort of goes to the question that was asked earlier about about Mr. Woodall, whether legal immigrants or illegal immigrants are more economically productive. There is an economic boon essentially from gaining legal status. And it's absolutely true that the wages of undocumented workers are unnaturally suppressed, and that is not good for them or for anybody else. And so providing a path to citizenship for the 10.5 million people who are undocumented right now, 7 million of whom are in the workforce, would actually result in an economic benefit to them and to their wages and to the wages around them. But then separately also what that bill did was actually change the legal immigration system going forward to bring in those immigrants that it seems like we have general consensus would be a good thing to have in this country so we can stimulate additional economic growth. And it's the economic growth and the dynamic scoring that was done on that bill and the tax contributions made by those individuals over 10, 20 years that would end up paying down that deficit.
So legalizing people who are here today, 10.5 million people, who are most of them are part of the economy, would actually help the Americans who are already citizens.
Absolutely.
Economically speaking.
Absolutely, yes.
Would not take their jobs.
No, that is certainly, I mean, these are first of all, for the folks who are here, they're already in the workforce. So let's be clear with that. They're already in the workforce anyway.
Can you talk to me about how aging plays into this? So the population is aging. How is the addition of immigrants consistent with or helpful to dealing with that?
Yeah, totally. So immigrants who come into the United States today are by and large in their working and reproductive prime of their lives. Unlike, frankly, the American workforce, which is aging and is reproducing at a lower and lower rate over time. And so when you think about sort of the growth rate curve, the growth rate for this country, and the prospects of not being a country that is skewed toward people who are no longer in the workforce and are counting upon retirement benefits and the like, immigrants are breathing new life into that system and are helping to keep it solvent today and for years going forward.
So someone suggested that was that the cost of immigrants offset the benefits they were providing by paying into social benefits programs. Is that correct? correct?
No, I mean, the National Academy of Sciences did an exhaustive study, a literature review 2 years ago. And what they found is, yes, there are costs. This is actually relevant to the mayor as well. There are costs of immigration to this country, particularly the cost of children, because surprise, surprise, I'm a father of 2. Children are a huge suck on the economy, right? They're pretty economically useless at first, but they're an investment. And then eventually that investment pays off, and it pays off in spades, especially for second-generation immigrants. And so, also there are additional costs in certain communities that have the largest populations initially. And so as part of an immigration reform conversation, we maybe should have a conversation about some redistribution of support from the federal government to communities that have the largest shares of immigrants and new immigrants who are seeing some impact in their housing market, in their schools and the like. But overall, immigrants are an economic boon for this country, fiscally and economically.
For all of us.
For all of us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. And now